Everybody to the Scale Up Show. This is your host, Ryan Staley, and I have a very special guest back with me for part two, Andrew Johnston, head of sales at Superhuman. This man's done a lot of interesting things and is still doing them right now. Actually, one of the things that he did before was he was one of the early reps that also grew a team to 30 at SendGrid before they went IPO. On top of it, too, worked at Scale AI as a director in sales. And now he is leading up sales over at Superhuman. Had a lot of great talk. If you missed the first episode, go back and check it out. I hammered Andrew on quantifiable ROI for AI products. Yeah, I almost stumbled over my own words. So that's what we did for round one. Today, we're going to go through something different because he is not only a practitioner, but also an investor for Craft Ventures. We are going to talk about this landscape of AI tools as a whole and the whole AI space. And so, Andrew, this is a unique episode. We haven't really gone down this path with a guest, but, I think you can add a lot of value here. So welcome. Happy to have you back on the show, brother.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate the second opportunity. Hopefully I can continue to be combative and answer everything back that you need.
You weren't combative at all, man. You're just chill. You could tell you grew up in the Midwest like myself. We're not going to say what football team you like or any crap like that because that might get a little combative, even though I'm on the wrong side of that argument. So, so let's talk, man. So you got a unique view, right? You've been in the tech space for a while. You are in the thick of it at a startup right now. Well, actually, you guys aren't really a startup right now. You're a pretty big organization. However, you're also investing in a lot of organizations that are on the tool side, the AI tool side. So give me your take on, first of all, just the whole AI landscape specifically as it relates to tools and what you're seeing right now.
Yeah, it's a broad market. Everyone's solving for everything, and it's hard to cut through the noise. I think it's, that's the hard part right now. Being, a scout for Craft and just an angel investor on the side as my own, what's actually going to provide value, what has staying power, and, what's going to get gobbled up by the, open AIs of the world that are building very, very quickly and very robustly. I think a lot of what I'm seeing is these AI agents that are out there. And the problem with AI agents today is that, or a chat, it's only so effective, right? And it doesn't really, in my mind, just go into how you're actually engaging with the product. And so some of the things that I look for are products that are built with a seamless integration and have their own value as part of that chain within AI. So what do I mean by that? If you think about it, a lot of products have maybe 75% built with, they're a wrapper for ChatGPT or they're a wrapper for another LLM. And that's fine. I'm not saying there's not value there, but that value is going to diminish pretty quickly. And the value of that startup could diminish very quickly unless they build in the right way. What I try to look for is for companies that have integrated in a smart way, but have built a unique IP or workflow so that it's more like 75% of what they've built. And then 25% using either a combination of the LLMs, maybe one specific LLM, or they're fine-tuning data across the board. And I'm happy to give some examples. I think Superhuman does this well as touting my own tool because we've built workflows first and then added AI, and it's not just this blanket chatbot. But I think there's other tools out there that are really great in the way that they've integrated this unique place to engage and distribute the product versus just, hey, we are going to do AI for X and create a chatbot or an agent for X.
Okay, love that, man. So yeah, I would love to hear some examples in terms of what you're thinking specifically. And yeah, let's get as specific as possible. And let's go outside of Superhuman, because we talked a lot about Superhuman in the first episode. Yep. You can parse on some things there too, because I know there's some amazing things that you guys are doing.
Yeah, I'll go outside Superhuman. So there's a tool called Liminal AI, which is a company that I just angel invested in. They're in the security space, which I think is huge for the world that we're about to enter.
Real quick, how do you spell that? Liminal, you said?
Liminal, Liminal.
Okay.
And Colorado company, really cool founders. What they have built is a tool that, kanji that sits on your computer. Imagine kanji, but it has the ability inside of highly regulated institutions, healthcare, banks, financial firms, or just companies that deal with, really sensitive data, to leverage and use any LLM and experiment with prompts, and it will auto masks the data so that there's no risk of that data or that prompt or uncompliant information being released to the large language model. And so it's really fascinating the way they've done this, and it makes it so that their team, who is probably already using ChatGPT or using another LLM and prompting it with that data outside of the secure source, to do so within the secure environment of the company and inside their own machine. And so I love this integration, right? Because you're taking something that already is a risk for security, saying we're okay with it, it's going to happen anyway, bringing it in-house and integrating it in a seamless way that end user doesn't feel any different. They can either use Liminal as a tool, or they can go directly to the source, like the website, OpenAI or Anthropic or whatever they're going to use, prompt that model, and it's auto doing that masking and that data retention policy based on whatever your IT or your security team sets. So really cool tool. That's one example. I've got a few others, but again, that's an example of where they're leveraging the LLMs that have been built in the generative AI platforms, but they've built this very unique workflow, very designed workflow that is unique to them. So just one example of a tool.
Yeah,
that I
love
really like.
that, man. What about on the go-to-market side? Do you have some examples there?
Yeah, there's a tool called Cinch. Cinch is another one that I invested in. They just announced their seed raise, and they're a tool that is basically AI for RevOps. And so if you've ever been in a small startup, even companies that are larger, we had this problem when I was at Twilio, we have it at Superhuman, is that the RevOps team is never large enough. And so you as a sales leader sometimes are blind to then go create dashboards, do forecasting reports, and it just always falls flat. And they have built a workflow that enables you to actually edit the source code as if you had a Salesforce engineer on your side or a consultant, and build things like dashboards, build things like reporting, do things like alerts into Slack, all with using natural language and prompting versus having to go write that code. And so it enables someone like a sales leader to honestly flesh out their entire solution very quickly and very easily. Or you can have a RevOps person, a much smaller RevOps team, and have a lot more robustness versus taking away time from that person to say, hey, Ryan, go build me this report. And then they've got to get out of their flow, spend 20 minutes doing it. So that's another tool that I love on the go-to-market side. And it's an area that's not often built for too, which is great.
Yeah. I mean, especially with the complexity of Salesforce and how much heavy lifting is involved, there's definitely a lot of pain there. So any other ones that you more on the practitioner side, whether it be for what about on the go-to-market leader side, anything that you're seeing there for like a CRO or CMO, something along those lines?
I'm trying to think. There's a bunch of them out there. I'm trying to think of another one that I saw. It's not really a CMO or CRO. I did see one for a practitioner side, more for AEs, called Agent Herbie, which is a tool that allows you to do research. And the medium is actually email, which I love. So it's like you're talking to your own email assistant. You can use any email tool that you have, and then it gives back resources and source data. Use cases for this could be research on a company. It could be research on a specific topic. And I think that's a really great resource for, a rep or someone who's in seat in marketing to go help them with like market analysis. And it's pulling actual internet data. So more of a practitioner use case, not as related to CRO or CMO, but I think that's a great one.
What about that one? So let's talk about that. So and you might not know a ton about them, but I think you could have, and I'm starting to see this, right? You mentioned, you even called it out, right? Specifically with like the LLM wrapper, being around that. Mm-hmm. So what kind of workflow is integrated into that? Because I could pull up Perplexity and grab, amazing data from them. Or if I have a good prompt, I could pull the 10K, the annual report, the letter from the CEO, and I'll have that tight in one description. So what kind of workflow makes it really good on the email side? Because that's obviously your expertise as well.
Yeah, I think it makes it so you're kind of bringing it to where the person is, right? And your point is correct. Where could I just go into the actual tool and then copy and paste? But there is a simplicity there that allows for a more seamless integration based on what I've seen. And I don't know the exact specifics, or I can't remember off the top of my head, but they do have some unique ways that they've tuned. It's not just them repurposing and putting it into the models that we know. They've actually tuned those models based on specific use cases that they try to serve. And so again, they're creating their own unique workflow. They're creating a way that you can interact with the bot they've built, so that hey, I have an idea. I need to do this research project. I'm just going to fire up an email. I don't have to then go collect that data. You're saving yourself maybe 15, 20 minutes to do so. But then it's tuned to the certain use case. So based on, again, if I remember this correctly, what you ask of the tool, I'm trying to write a research analysis on this market. It then has a specifically tuned model based on data they've collected and based on models they've tuned across the LLMs to then serve a response back that's going to be most productive. So I think that's how they're doing it. But you're right, like there is very risk for, could a company come in and just stomp them out because they're able to provide that same sort of data analysis, maybe not through email, but albeit very quickly through their platform.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? And here's where I'm coming from, man. And maybe this is why, because it's fresh in my mind. Like, did you hear what happened to Chatlingual? Like, basically after OpenAI had their 4.0 announcement.
I've heard of that one. I'm not familiar with, but I've heard a few that were just like, we're dead in the water now.
Or
so
not
I don't know if
I
that's
think Duolingo or something like that.
Duolingo, that's the one. Yeah, I did hear about that. Yes.
I think they lost like $230 million in like value when that real-time voice assistant, like stock value, right? So like that's where it's like so freaking hard. And we talked about that. I talked to Mark Roberge on the show about that, of like, all right, how do you like kind of future-proof companies and like what do you look for? And like I love your perspective of the integration layer of like looking like integrated workflow, because that makes it really hard. But then like I starting to see like, did you also see what happened with, and this just happened yesterday, so maybe not, Satya over at Microsoft, like some of the announcements they had with Build. Did you see that at all or no?
I missed the one yesterday. I have not.
Okay.
I'm not caught up. But yeah, what's the latest?
So the latest is like, so basically what they're doing is they have obviously the Copilot, right? And I'm like, I think of Dr. Evil whenever you hear Copilot because it was used so much, right? I should create a video series. Like last year it was co-pilots, and then this year it's agents is going to be the next one, right? Where it's like,
right, totally.
How they're going to rule the world. But effectively, what they're doing is, so they have the core co-pilot option, and I've been using it too because like I have to test these tools all the time, and it's gotten way better than it was even a month ago, right? Because they're obviously stuffing it or integrating it with the newest ChatGPT model. So, but one of the things that was really unique is now that they have the Copilot, the next generation is they're having a team Copilot. So basically it's a Copilot that operates autonomously with your team, whether it's regulating meetings, doing notes, suggesting follow-up, but it's proactive too. It's not just reactive like note taker. And then the next step, what they're doing is agents. And so, but what they're doing is they're integrating this across the whole Microsoft stack. So they're doing a lot of this across Teams, OneDrive, all the applications. And so that's like, you're talking about integration. Like I think Microsoft's going deep on that. And they even brought it down to now it's going to be on the PC. So there's capabilities like AI capabilities that are integrated into the laptop. You have capabilities too. So you could actually like take a cursor just like you would a video and go back and see what you did if you forgot what you did. And it'll actually remember that. So those are some of the things that like are top of mind that are kind of like, shit, man, this is all moving so fast, you know? So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but those are just some things that are kind of top of mind.
Yeah, I think, God, where do I even begin? It is scary. It's scary like for those companies, right? Because they're moving so quickly and they have so much of a war chest to go build. It's crazy. And I do think like everyone dreams of AI having memory. I don't think there's that seems close, right? Where they could actually pull memory from the computer and you're able to look at your entire history and it's able to be, very smart to everything you ever done or touched from a digital perspective on maybe a PC or a Windows machine. The two things I think about right now are one is like, what's the outcome? So I think, we all had this vision around how fast, it's going to change the world. Like it's all these things. This was 6 months ago. And I think we kind of hit that peak inflection moment and we're still peaking a little bit, but I think the general public is saying, well, I got to go prompt. It's going to hallucinate. Like it's still imperfect. And I think that's true of even the tools that are being built by Google and Microsoft and the other big players. Like they are really, really good, but I don't think we're there tomorrow. And so what I think is important is two things. One is if you're going to invest in a tool or you're going to find a tool that you use, like, does it get you to an outcome or is it just a chatbot? Is it just a window that you're going to have to prompt? And is it really giving you that right information? And how often is it like actually effective? And I think what I'm finding is some of the most simple use cases or simple solves that save 10, 20, 30 minutes of time. That's an outcome that is like a clearly deliverable thing is the most powerful either to invest in or either just a tool to use. Maybe it's not investable because there's too much risk of the market taking it over. But the tools that I might use today as a CEO or as a CRO that have that outcome-based thing make it really effective. And that's kind of what I look for. And so anyway, I don't kind of rambling thoughts, but yeah, I think the simplistic is more important right now. I think everyone was expecting it to be game over tomorrow, and I just think it's not there yet. So
Okay, so that's good. I think that makes a lot of sense. And like, are you familiar with the company User Gems?
yeah, of course.
So like User Gems, same kind of example. Like they just focused on that one feature of job changes, and now they've expanded. They're probably $15 million company now. So I think that's a great example. So let me ask you one final question, then we'll wrap. So I know we're just about up on time. So
Sure.
when you're looking at companies and investing in viability, we talked a lot about product, right? Like how much of a weight do you put on like their product versus their distribution? Like what's your kind of weighting? And when you're looking at investing or the investors look at that, like how do you balance and identify like, how much you focus on each one and the expectations for the distribution side?
Yeah, great question. I think about distribution a lot. I'm a big believer in the fact that, and this is why it's kind of like my thesis as I invest in companies, that go to market is the differentiator in today's world versus just writing better code or writing, different differentiator things there. So distribution is key. Who's your market, who you're going after, why is the product sticky? I think that's really, really important to think through. And I think it's something that's going to have to be a core focus for a lot of these companies, especially if they're more in that territory of wrapper, and maybe they're going to evolve and be something more than that. But if they don't have the right distribution, they're going to suffer. But I also think, and something that I've seen in a lot of tools, and won't name names, but it's almost like people are leaning too much on the AI side of things, right? Like It's almost, in certain cases, we've forgotten about how to build, and I'm not an engineer, I'm not a product person, but we've forgotten about how to build good UI and good UX, where you go into some of these products and like, this is clunky. Like, this is not great. It's a terrible experience. And so even just the experience using it, even if the AI is great, is so bad that I'm like, I'm going to go back to the tool that has a great workflow, but maybe the AI isn't as advanced. And so I think about those things a lot of like, are they still keeping core principles and core fundamentals of good software and good product design in mind, in addition to how are they thinking about distribution, and then how is the AI integrated? And that's just how I think about it today, because I think we lost sight, even for like 6 months or a year as everything got really hot, of some really good core fundamentals. And you see products that just maybe don't have staying power because they don't have distribution, or they're just not great experiences, really. And so I think a lot about those things.
Well, I think you nailed it, man. I think that's a good spot to end on. And that's so true, because there's I can think of a solution I literally saw last week that like the user interface is crap. I'm like, what is this, from the 80s? Are we playing Pong? Is it like Commodore 64? Is it Atari? What the hell are we doing here? Anyways, I digress. So Andrew, where can people find you? Where can they find out more about you and what you're doing, not just at Superhuman, but on the investing side as well?
Yeah, LinkedIn, Twitter. I try to tweet as much as possible. I'm not as active as some of my other, I guess, angel investing peers. And then I try to get out there and write a little bit as well. Obviously, you can always find me at andrew.johnston.superhuman.com. Yeah, those are a few places.
Thanks for being on, man. It was great having you on part one, and I think you delivered as well on part two. So pleasure having you on the show, man.
Cool. Thanks, Ryan. Have a good one.
And thank you for joining us, and we will see you on the next episode.